Welcome to Nature Talks, Rio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. I love that you reached out to want to come and chat in the nature.
Yeah.
We go back a long way.
I know, we do. I think we were just talking about it then. 17 I was when I met you.
No way.
Yeah, and I'm 30 this year.
No way. What a time. Music videos, right?
Music videos, that's where it all started, yeah.
Not to reminisce too much, but I guess like more just interested to have you come and chat, because I'm just so interested in like your journey, I guess, of like where you've kind of come from. I know obviously kind of modeling and acting in music videos and commercials and stuff, and then you went into presenting, and then now, but you've recently left that. So to kind of go on this, I guess, would you call it a wellness journey, or you're making a documentary?
I think it's like, I realized that I was maybe going down a path that got me to a certain point that I didn't necessarily want to go to that destination. So I kind of had to take a step back and come back to the junction, I guess, in order to figure out where it is I want to go next.
Well said.
And yeah, so I was modeling, doing a bit of acting, and then I got into presenting. And throughout that whole period, I talk very openly, but I was experiencing a very severe eating disorder that was just within my life. And I had something like very, I guess, obvious that needed me to take a look at it, you know. My coping mechanism started to affect my life in real big ways. So I guess that journey of me healing from that also taught me so much more. You know, it wasn't just the eating disorder that I was healing from, it was all of the things that were limiting me or that I believed that wasn't necessarily serving me. And I got to a point, I think, in my career that the intention behind why I maybe wanted to be like a radio presenter or in front of the camera was more for external validation than it was for like self-fulfillment.
Yeah. When you start questioning why you do things, you uncover some some secrets.
Some deeper meaning, right?
Yeah.
And I guess it's like what I've learned is like, where was that lacking in my life in those pivotal stages of growing up? When, if you look at, I recently retrained as a hypnotherapist. So I trained years ago when I was getting over my eating disorder. And the philosophy to that is like, we make so many limiting beliefs around the age of like 0 to 7 from our experiences in this world. And that's how we then carry those through life, and different things that we experience either confirm those beliefs about us, or they give us a new way of looking at things, right? But so for me, when I looked at, I need external validation, where was that lacking, like way back when? And then I realized, like, sometimes, not that it was done on purpose, but as a child, maybe I wasn't getting the validation that I needed, or the love or attention that I needed. 100%. So I've then spent my whole life craving it from another rather than giving it to myself.
It's a profound realization that, you know, it's a big realization. Yeah, it's interesting you say 0 to 7, because I think if you think about like the things that happen to you from 0 to 7, they can be very small, but the impact that they have on you ultimately for the rest of your life is like, is huge.
Well, it's kind of because you don't understand your emotions and you're not emotionally mature at that age to be able to process things. If there's not space for uncomfortable emotions to be processed, so even like when you're crying, right? It's like, stop crying, stop crying. Some people think that that's making it better, but that's maybe saying to the child, oh, it's not safe for you to be upset. It's not safe for you to cry. So then we work out all different strategies of how not to feel those sad feelings, because that's not safe. So we funnel it into other things, you know, and have different ways of coping, which essentially suppresses those emotions.
What was the point when you realized that you had an eating disorder?
So I thought about this the other day, and it blew my mind. So if we look at it from a perspective of like, I just craved the love from my mum and my dad. That's all I wanted in life, for them to be proud of me. I looked back at being younger. My mum was of an era where she cared about her appearance and being in a smaller body. And then when my mum and dad split up, when I would see my dad on occasion, we would eat lots of junk food, and it would almost be like that's how I felt love from him, right? When we was eating like a bargain bucket from KFC on a Friday night. So if I'm trying to please both of them, that's like an equation for bulimia, which is what I had.
Yeah.
So my mum wants me to be skinny, and that's what she idolizes. But my dad, I feel connection through eating junk food and binging.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that feels like a really easily understood equation, right? For what I went through. But yeah, it from 15, it kind of came into my life of, I suppose I experienced self-rejection before then, but I guess the self-rejection got so bad that my eating disorder came in as almost like a distraction or a way to cope. And the reason that it was an eating disorder and it did turn into bulimia is, as I said, because of that, I was trying to fit into these two worlds of where I felt loved, but it's hard because it's probably not the healthy kind of love, you know?
But I'm very interested, I guess, to understand maybe when you realised that it was an issue.
It got to a place, I remember it really clear. I was about 19, and sorry to be graphic, but I would make myself sick after absolutely everything I ate. So it was so intense. And I never forget, I was on a train, and you know what toilets are like on trains. Yeah. And I had my head down the toilet, and I thought to myself, I can't do this anymore.
What am I doing?
What am I doing? And then it was many years before I actually got over it. I got over it when I was 24.
Wow.
But from the age of around like 19, 20, I just knew that I was going to dedicate everything in my life to understand what was going on. And the more that I uncovered, the more I realized it was nothing to do with the food. It was to do with the belief system underneath it and how I felt about myself.
God, it's so mad to think that I knew you like in that time.
Yeah.
And like, obviously would never have, guessed that there was anything going on.
Even though when I met you, I was going through my eating disorder, they can like live side by side in the fact that even having those experiences and getting judged, it taught me so much about myself. Of course, I would say at points it would have fueled my eating disorder, but it also, I don't know, there were so many lessons in that whole process.
Because you were amazing at acting and stuff like that. I remember
thank you.
You were, I guess not even to delve into, that side of your life, but also to talk about how tackling that head on, how has that informed and I guess led you to where you are now?
Well, I think it was like, it helped me get to know myself so much better, but from a place of acceptance and not judgment. And all of the work that I did, any kind of like therapy that I've done, I've tried so many different things. And sometimes people ask me, what was the one that kind of changed it for you? It wasn't, they was all for me. It was all like, I look at it as like building a house, and it was all just adding additional bits, Every bit of therapy I did, it was like, let's install some new windows, or should we get an extension on it? That's how I kind of saw it.
What would you say were the most profound ones though, like for you? Personally?
Hypnotherapy, hence the reason that I went back and trained in it, because with hypnotherapy, it allows you to access your subconscious and go back to memories of times where you felt not good enough or you lacked love. And it enabled me, it enabled me to feel those emotions that I'd suppressed for so long.
Totally.
I had mad, profound experiences with hypnotherapy. Basically
kind of ultimately closing your eyes and going back to those places, right? And those moments.
Yeah, what we can recall, and also like, usually we have all the answers, we just don't stop long enough to hear what they are.
Yeah.
And I think it is when you take that stillness and you do go into your mind, you'd be so surprised at what shows up.
And is that guided by someone?
Yeah.
That's someone guiding you? And that's now what you trained as?
Yeah. So I've been working with a few people and it's been really amazing. I love being able to do that as well for others. And then a lot of it came down to like rebuilding my relationship with myself, which isn't a therapy. It wasn't at therapy, but the tools that I learned from therapy of like how I even speak to myself and what's coming up. There was so much reprogramming that I did. So if you think where I started, it was just like self-rejection, negative self-talk, putting myself down, judging myself. When I brought awareness to that going on, it was then my choice to say, wait, do I want to listen to this or do I want to say this to myself? Oh, actually, I don't. What are we going to say instead? And it was having these moments where I'm literally talking to myself inside my mind saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore. You know, like a loving friend or a loving parent of, no, we don't have to do that. It's okay. What are we going to say that uplifts you? What are we going to say that builds you? What are we going to say that makes you feel good? And then I started bringing that language into my mind. And that for me has been the best thing. Like I rarely ever catch myself in judgment for me. I can be very honest with myself if I know I've done something that I'm not necessarily proud of, but I will never judge myself for it. I try and understand where it's come from.
That's an amazing place to get to, you know?
Yeah.
The thing that I've found with it, and what I've, I guess, discovered with a lot of therapy, is that feeling very alone when I was young all the time, and feeling like I was alone to figure things out and there wasn't going to be someone there who was going to figure this thing out. And I've always kind of that feeling, I guess, then comes with so much like negative thinking, you know, because then I feel like I can't trust anyone. I feel like I have to do everything myself. You know, it's all these kind of, like you're saying, right? Like my brain has been, and my thoughts have been conditioned based off things I experience. And those things ultimately thread back to always just feeling kind of alone. So yeah, I guess then what happens is I have thoughts of like, oh, I can't trust that person, or oh, they're going to let me down, or, you know, when all of that just isn't really real, you know, which is what I definitely have done a lot of work on now, which is like, maybe that won't happen. Maybe I can trust that person, or maybe like, maybe that whole fucking house I built's not going to blow up, you know?
It is now moving more into the space of like, oh, let me try and trust them.
100%.
And even if it doesn't go how I think it's going to, then it's okay because I've got my own back, you know?
Exactly. And also I think, you know, learning that things are not always going to be right, you know, they can't always be perfect, and ultimately knowing and believing that you have the ability to fix stuff and change stuff. Yeah,
and knowing that things can be uncomfortable as well. I think in our society, we really don't like those uncomfortable feelings. We kind of distract ourselves as much as possible with things like alcohol or our phones now, you know, like if there's any feelings of, oh, it feels uncomfortable, oh, let's just distract and scroll, and constantly keeping our mind busy, but knowing that uncomfortable feelings are okay and they're a part of our human experience.
I definitely struggle with that. Like I noticed if I'm feeling like anxious or low, I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna get my phone, because I know I'll just like, which I guess was part of the reason to try and like do this even. Not only like having conversations with people that I really admire and respect and are ultimately very interested in, but also giving a place when you are scrolling. Like if you are going to go to your phone with anxiety and you want to escape, then like I'd hope you would watch this over, who knows, so much other stuff. And so you know, you obviously did very well in your career, and especially, you know, it was amazing to watch you kind of move into the presenting and the radio stuff and doing really well there. But like recently you've left that job, right? And and what was the reason, I guess, and what's the next path?
So I did it for 6 years, and I loved it, and I started when I was 23, so I was super young, and I ticked so much off the list that I wanted to achieve there. And as I explained before, it got me to a point that going forward, you kind of, the traditional way of doing it is you get into radio and then you get into TV, and then that's the way it works, you know? And then I asked myself the question, is this what I want? And I knew that I wanted to do something with depth. Radio is amazing for like uplifting pop culture. It makes you feel good, and that's what it does. And then I in my heart was like, oh, I want to have deep chats. I want to have deep conversations. And I couldn't do that on the radio. So yeah, I've been off now for 9 months, and I'm so like, I still do voiceovers and various different things. So I'm so fortunate to be able to take some time out. I don't really know the answer of what I want to do next. I know that I've got newfound morals of like how I want my job to feel or how I want my time to be spent. But I don't really know what that looks like. So I've been making these documentaries as just passion projects, which I've loved making. There's definitely stuff that I would like to do around connection because I feel like that's lacking in today's world.
100%.
Even the other morning, I tried to challenge myself to say good morning to people as I pass them on my bike.
That's a good one.
But even I got really nervous. Like, I mean, I feel quite confident just the majority of my life, but I'm saying good morning to people, to strangers.
Yeah.
And once I got into it, it felt really nice. And it was so lovely to see people's faces light up because they didn't expect it and then also say it back. And I only did it the once because I'm nervous to do it again. But I would love to do more of that just in my everyday life.
I find it interesting just to talk to people, you know, like in a lift or like, it's just, it's crazy that it feels so alien. We have trouble with connecting, I think, but we also have trouble with like, if someone says, how are you? And you say, I'm good, when actually like you're not, you know, you're maybe not good on that day.
Yeah, of course. And then I even think with that whole, are you okay? And if someone answers any different to I'm good, it catches the other person off guard.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what I always love. I always say like, you ask someone how they are and they actually just go, yeah, I'm actually really bad. This is going on. And you're like, yeah, let's have an actual conversation rather than small talk, which kind of doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. And I think our whole conversation today has been around like coping mechanisms that I guess show up negatively or what could be taken negatively, right? Like alcohol and eating disorders and things like that. And when I was doing some work on myself, my brother actually said it to me years ago and he said, you're really toxically positive. And I didn't understand what he meant because in my mind, I thought, but I'm so positive, like people like being around me and I don't understand why that's an issue. And I did some work on it and I realized that, again, when I had in the past voiced my uncomfort or my sadness, it had never been met with the open arms and the nurture.
Yeah.
So I then started to just pretend I was always okay. And also because I had experience of saying how I actually felt and someone not liking me for it, it was almost like a form of people pleasing. Which I wasn't aware of because of thinking that positivity is this amazing thing. I didn't realize I was using it in a way that wasn't actually serving me because I wasn't speaking my truth of how I actually felt out of fear that the person receiving it wouldn't respond well. And then I was also bypassing my uncomfortable emotions through pretending I was okay when really I wasn't. And it opened up a whole nother world for me that I think sometimes we don't look into things because they present themselves as normal or positive. So we don't get curious around those things. We only get curious around things that are really negatively impacting us. But if you look at it from a point of view of like, say someone believes that being successful is going to make them somebody in this world. So that's where they put their tunnel vision.
Yes.
But as we know, life has so much to it and there's so much that we need to invest our time in to make sure that we're balanced human beings and can show up the best that we can. But because success is put on a pedestal, they then don't realize that they ever have to look into these other things because the curiosity is not there the same way it is with like a negative coping mechanism. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, the success thing is a thing that I think that analogy makes total sense, you know, because I always would say that like, I would chase success in a way to not see all those things. And also that idea that like when you get there, it's all going to be all right, you know? I think that is another you know, misconception.
How did you feel from that, from like reaching those like highs that you'd always dreamed of from a work sense?
Yeah, it's interesting you ask. I've been actually writing a book recently about kind of getting sober, but also the journey to not the pinnacle of my career, but the point that I got to where I was like, oh, I really got everything that I thought I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that why I wanted to at least start writing about it is because it is a weird realization that I spent my whole life thinking, if I get that and I get that VMA and I fucking make that thing and I do those things, in my head it felt like something would happen, like some big moment would happen to me where like I would feel calm or wanted or ultimately seen, validated, all the things that I've realized that I was kind of chasing. I think a lot of it was really to do with just being seen, you know. I wanted to, you know, in my head I was like, I want to make things that are massive that like everyone sees, and I want, you know, I want what I make to be seen by the world. But I think ultimately what I was searching for was just for me to be seen by the world. And then when I got all that stuff, you know, you're like, oh yeah, that's actually not the case at all. Yeah. You know, I'm still the same motherfucker standing here as I was 15 years ago when I started, you know?
Yeah, of course. But because, like you just said then, it was fueled by that need to be seen. And that was the intention behind it. So when you get there, you're like, oh, actually, that need to be seen is still here. Because I haven't solved it internally. I'm trying to solve it by grabbing onto all these external things, thinking that's going to fix the problem. It's like, oh, it's all within.
No, exactly. And I think that the other thing that I think a lot about is like, is the show that we output. Like who do we show the world we are? Yeah. I think about it a lot in the social media sense, because I think that however much you try on social media, you can only show a two-dimensional version of yourself, really. I think like you can't show all the layers and all the things. So it's like, so you've got social media that is showing one side of you, and then also you've got just the thing that you show to other people. Like I remember at one point I asked, you know, my partner years ago, I was kind of like, I remember asking like why she loved me, and she said, because I see a side of you that you don't show to anyone else. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, that's so mad. That like, and I thought about it a lot, and I thought she's totally right. Like she sees a version of me that like no one else sees, because ultimately I put on a front, which I think arguably like we all do, right? And we do it to protect ourselves, and we do it to excel in our career, or whatever the reason is. Yeah. But yeah, I guess getting sober was definitely a point when I had to be like, well, who is the out-facing person? Who is the in-facing person? And yes, they're both me, but like, who are they, I guess? Well, one thing I always ask is like, you know, if you wanted to inspire someone who was watching, who like went through similar things that you went through, like what would you say to them?
I would say never lose hope. If we can learn how to be a certain way, we can unlearn it. We just gotta be curious about why it's there in the first place, because anything that we choose to do in life, there'll be a reason as to why we've chosen that path. And just hold a lot of love around those choices, you know? I never forget, a therapist once said to me, you need to learn to love your eating disorder. And at the time, I'm like, what? How could I possibly learn to love something that is ruining my life, you know? Mm. And then as I started to work through it, I understood what he meant. We're human beings, we're so many different things made up of so much. And all of our positive qualities that we've got, we bring them in and we own it. Oh, this is what I'm like, I'm confident, I'm bubbly. But the things that we're not so impressed with, you know, we reject. We don't really tell people about those bits. So we keep them over here. If we keep them over here, we can't understand what's going on. We've got to bring them in, hold love for them, hold space for them, to understand why they're there in the first place. And when he taught me that, it blew my mind. And I then learned so much about all of the other negative patterns that I had to hold space for them, to understand them and stop judging them and pushing them away.
Well said. I think I just wanted to ask that question because I hope that someone who's watching this can see a bit of themselves in you, you know, and get inspired to take the journey that they need to take, or feel inspired to, you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you. Well said, well said. Very good.
Amazing.